Do you remember the first time you played a Fallout game? Or maybe the first time you even heard about Fallout? It may have been very recent with the massive success of the TV show. It may have been when the game was a top-down RPG and not the open-world game that many know today. Maybe you've stuck it out in the trenches as Fallout 76 fell woefully below standards and has spent years improving itself. No matter what your first experience has been with Fallout, it is undeniably a game that leaves an impression on you. Barren wastelands and destroyed towns juxtaposed against a cheery backdrop of smiling posters and charming music that you might expect to hear in a black and white film. But while memories of Fallout and experiences may vary, its journey has not been one of smooth sailing. Some might even say that the game is on a bit of a comeback story after falling well below historical high points that now seem like a distant memory. And even though most gamers would associate Fallout with Bethesda as a studio, has the game outgrown Bethesda? Is it time for someone else to take the reins? Does the nature of an explosively popular TV show change the trajectory of this near 30-year-old franchise? Well, before we imagine where Fallout might go and why it might happen without Bethesda at the helm, let's consider where it's come from. Fallout 1 released in 1997 and sold 600,000 copies worldwide, making it a commercial success. And if you came to the franchise late like me, you may not know that it was a top-down RPG for its first two games, with Fallout 2 releasing just a year later in 1998. But what might be lesser known by newer fans of Fallout, Bethesda did not make a Fallout game until Fallout 3, which, from a gameplay perspective, as well as a commercial perspective, changed everything. Fallout 3 released in 2008 on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. It earned over $300 million at launch and sold roughly 12.5 million copies to date and received numerous Game of the Year awards. The open-ended gameplay and character building had many thinking it was one of the best games ever made. So it's clear why, for many, Fallout is a Bethesda game, as they took a successful franchise not just out of its top-down gameplay approach, they took it into the stratosphere. Now, this is part of the reason why many felt Fallout was revolutionary. They took a classic RPG design, put it into a 3D world with guns and seemingly limitless choices. For its time, and I would even say today, Fallout 3 is considered a masterpiece. But this is where the journey for Fallout takes a turn that is instructive for what may need to happen in the present day. A new Fallout was released just 2 years after Fallout 3, and if the turnaround time feels fast, it's because it is, and it's also because Bethesda didn't make the next Fallout. Fallout New Vegas was developed by Obsidian Entertainment, and according to many Fallout fans, it is far and away the best in the history of the franchise. And the sales certainly show why. This is a long-standing debate in the Fallout community. With approximately 12 million sales, it stands toe-to-toe with Fallout 3. And launching just 2 years after the roaring success of Fallout 3, that was likely a daunting task. And it is after Fallout New Vegas when the trajectory of Fallout starts to flatten, and in the minds of some, it starts to decline, which has nothing to do with the commercial success of the next game. Fallout 4 released in 2015 to huge commercial success. On the day of its release, it shipped over 12 million copies, which means during its launch year, it is far surpassing the previous games. And according to court documents, the game has shipped roughly 25 million copies as of 2020. This means that Fallout 4 essentially sold more than Fallout 3 and New Vegas combined. Likely even seeing a boost recently from the success of the TV show. But this is where the Fallout community can lead you astray. After false starting with both Fallout 3 and New Vegas, I played Fallout 4 at launch and I loved it. Just recently, the next-gen upgrade had me back in the wasteland, and I learned that I had put in over 110 hours into Fallout 4 on my Xbox. But there was always a split narrative about Fallout 4. Some say that the game dumbed down too much of the RPG elements. The user scores and critical scores aren't quite as strong as Fallout 3 and New Vegas, but they are still quite good. I was consistently told that Fallout 4 was a terrible, buggy mess at launch, and modders had to save it. Well, after 110 hours in the game, I never installed a single mod and never had any problems that were so significant as to make me stop playing. So despite huge commercial success and solid scores, many saw Fallout 4 as the beginning of a downturn, and whether you agree with that or not becomes a moot point when Fallout 76 enters the picture. Mired in the controversy of overpromising and the famous 16 times the detail line from Todd Howard, and not just that, it didn't just fall below the expectations of overpromising and hype, the game was nothing short of a disaster at launch. Bugs and glitches in such great quantity that no amount of Bethesda charm could gloss over them or make you look the other way. It was so bad that players began refunding the game once they learned that was an option. So much so that Bethesda started refusing refunds through their website, which had them facing a potential class action lawsuit at the time. So it goes without saying that Fallout had fallen from the once glorious throne that the franchise had occupied. Long-standing fans will be quick to point out, they'll be very quick to point out, that a different team worked on Fallout 76 and that development was obviously rushed, and that the game has massively improved since then. And while all of this is true, the rise and fall of Fallout is clear, it's measurable, and it's currently on the mend. The Fallout TV show is an undeniable and absolutely massive success. It is clearly fighting for the title of Best Video Game Adaptation, but I don't think it has to fight for the claim of Most Popular. In just 2 weeks, it has amassed 65 million viewers, making it the second most watched show ever on Amazon, and it is the biggest release since The Rings of Power, which, regardless of what you thought about Rings of Power, competing with The Lord of the Rings is no small feat. The first season of Rings of Power, by way of comparison, currently holds the record for Amazon with over 100 million viewers, which, maybe with enough time, enough word of mouth, it's kind of going viral, maybe Fallout gets close to that number. And the success of the show is certainly not lost on the current makers of Fallout. A free next-gen update was pushed out to Fallout 4, and there's a big map expansion update coming to Fallout 76. And while the next-gen update for Fallout 4 is mired in a bit of controversy, seeing that it's running better on one platform than another, it was still a good opportunity to make everybody consider booting up Fallout 4 once again. In fact, according to reports, Fallout games attracted a stunning 5 million players in just one day, which was clearly in response to the popularity of the show. But has the lack of a new Fallout game to coincide with the show, has that been a huge missed opportunity? Well, Todd Howard spoke to that recently in an interview. He sat down with Kinda Funny Games, and he said the following: "We did a lot of things for the show. It may seem like, hey, there isn't a big new game out, but we added content into 76 for the show. 76 has a really great map expansion that's coming this summer with Skyline Valley." Now, this was part of his answer about sort of considering collaboration with another studio on the next Fallout game. So he was seeing a similarity there. He also, according to GameSpot, said he doesn't regret not having a new game out. Quote, Howard also said elsewhere in the interview that he doesn't regret not having a new game out to capitalize on the TV show's popularity, instead saying he's happy more people are discovering Fallout 76. But he did seem to indicate that working with other studios was part of the conversation. He was hinting that there are currently a couple unannounced Fallout projects, so obviously the question comes up, would you work with other studios? That's a lot of projects to be working on. That brings attention and focus to what I really want to talk about, the future of Fallout. The pattern of Fallout 3's success, followed quickly by another studio, making Fallout New Vegas, seeing similar and arguably rival success, I think is a pattern that may hold the key. Combing through reviews of Starfield is also instructive, and I know you might say, why would you look at Starfield? Well, it's from the same studio, and long-standing Bethesda fans have consistently pointed out just how much Starfield feels like a disappointing Fallout 5. Entire RPG systems were lifted wholesale from Fallout 4 and dropped right into Starfield with some very little changes and very little innovation. And if we look at the trajectory of Fallout from when Bethesda stepped in with Fallout 3, and we look at Starfield as what should be the culmination of everything they learned for massive open-world RPGs, it's hard not to see another step down in the decline of Fallout. Current user reception of Starfield is even lower than where Fallout 76 currently stands. And while many will claim, well, that's not a fair comparison, Fallout 76 has had all this time to improve. Well, that's not saying much for where Starfield currently stands. Which brings us to what I think about the undeniable trajectory of Bethesda and Fallout. Fallout has outgrown Bethesda. It is now a title that is far too big to give to the team that built what is essentially Fallout 5, and it currently is the lowest reviewed title in the bunch. I truly see Starfield as the spiritual sequel to Fallout 4, with the similarities in the systems, with the dialogue, the way the guns work, the way the experience flowed. It very much is the lowest in the bunch, completing that trajectory down from where it once sat. Now, just as a thought experiment, if you were to call Starfield Fallout 5, the decline of Fallout under Bethesda's watch would be something that is measurable. You could look at the user and engagement numbers to prove this. And the resurgence that the games are currently experiencing really drives home the point. The game, the world, the vibe of Fallout, it's just too good to risk fumbling again. The TV show proves the concept. Let someone else build it, with Bethesda consulting on art direction and story decisions. Now, this would open so many doors. First and foremost, it would make switching to a better engine possible. The creation engine is so ingrained into the institutional knowledge and the workflows at Bethesda, building a new Fallout or a new Elder Scrolls in anything other than the creation engine is probably out of the question. But imagine a Fallout 5 in the Decima engine. Not that you could get permission to use it, but just imagine it. The open world of Horizon Forbidden West and how the NPCs interact with you. Just compare the quality of the facial animations, the environments, the performance. The engine is clearly holding back Starfield, and it would hold back Fallout 5. That's a tiny glimmer, I think, into what Fallout 5 could be. And be honest with yourself. Don't you think it's time for somebody else to take a crack at Fallout? It worked with New Vegas, and I believe it could work again. The other major benefit to having another studio build Fallout 5 falls under one word: dedicated. You would have a dedicated team working on it. Right now, Bethesda's fairly split. Continued improvement and work is being done on Starfield, which, according to Todd Howard, there's a big update soon to arrive, as well as the Shattered Space DLC landing this fall. But they're also gearing up to work on the Elder Scrolls 6. That means that you would either have to wait a really long time for Fallout 5 to finally arrive, or it wouldn't get the full dedicated focus of the Bethesda team working on it. They'd be split between the two games. If you let another developer take the reins on Fallout 5, the game gets to come to market sooner, likely has increased quality due to a dedicated team working on it, and it would free up Bethesda to only focus on fixing Starfield and delivering the best Elder Scrolls 6 possible. Even the unspoken competition could be good for both games. The new studio would want to prove that they can deliver a New Vegas-style moment for Fallout, and Bethesda would want Elder Scrolls 6 to hold its own if compared to the quality and the innovation that this other team brings to Fallout 5. I can't see this any other way than a win for Bethesda, a win for Fallout, and more importantly, a win for gamers. But, as I said, Fallout, whether you learned about it from a TV show or played the very first game or just decided to dive into the wasteland, it's a game that leaves an impression on you. And I believe they could do it again. But that's just what I think. Now it's time to hear what you think. And you can do that in the comment below, or we put a card here with the live show coming up. I also try to pin a comment below where we go from this opening monologue and premiere into a live discussion. And I'd love to see you there. Be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.